Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the case of the case that I'm going to be looking into today is the case of Sierah Joughin, and I apologise profusely if I've said that name wrong. I presume I have. And funnily enough, I've actually watched a video on it and I still can't remember how to pronounce it now that I'm recording, so there you go. My memory sucks, sadly. And I really don't mean any offence by it, as many of you who carry on watching my channel will already know. This case was suggested by Mac, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have. And of course, if you have any more, let me know. Sierah was born on the 11th of February in 1996 to Sheila and Tom, and they lived in Ohio. She had a sibling, and they were just like a lovely, happy family. Once she graduated high school, she then went to the University of Toledo's Junior College of Business, and she studied human resource management. She was also doing an internship at her uncle's business, so she was very proactive and in like working towards what she wanted to do in life. She was, like most young girls, very social, very family orientated, very friend orientated, and she just adored everyone. She was just such a lovely girl. And she really did care as well. She really was a very big caring person. She had a boyfriend. They had been together for quite a while. They were quite serious. She was just loving life. You know what I mean? She loved having a laugh. She loved spending time with her family, her friends, her boyfriend. She had these grand ideas as to what she wanted to do and was trying all these different things out. She was just happy. Yeah. Oh, her boyfriend was called Josh. I forgot to mention that. So now we're going to the 19th of July in 2016, where Sierra decides that she's going to meet up with her boyfriend Josh, and they're going to go on this like bike ride together. I believe she was like 21 at the time, something around there. And she had recently just bought a new bicycle, so she wanted to test it out. She wanted to go out on this bike ride. Now, Josh had a motorcycle, so he wasn't on an actual bicycle, but they were going to still go together. He was going to go on his motorbike and she was going to go on the bicycle. So she goes out about 5 p.m. She meets up with Josh. They have their fun together. And then that was that with regards to Sierra and Josh. They did part ways again, and Sierra started heading back home. However, her mother ended up coming home at 9 o'clock that night and Sierra wasn't there. So, you know, she didn't actually make it home, sadly. Now, her mum didn't worry. You know, she was a young adult. She was a responsible girl. It was young. It was nice weather. The day was still young. It wasn't super late. You know, 9 o'clock, not that bad. And so she didn't really think too much of it. But when about an hour later, Josh called up to speak to Sierra, that is when it hit home that she should be home. And she wasn't. And boy, is that like a panic-stricken moment. He told her that they parted ways about 7-ish, and so by 9 o'clock, there was literally no reason as to why she shouldn't be home yet. You know, okay, maybe she'd gone out to see some friends or something like that, but nobody knew about it. Like, Josh was expecting her to be home and she wasn't, and her mother was expecting her to be home and she wasn't, and so where on earth was she? So because obviously she was on her bicycle, they started looking around hospitals. You know, they were thinking maybe she'd gotten run over by accident and nobody knew who she was and she was in hospital somewhere, you know, along those lines. But they couldn't find her anywhere, and they did eventually call the police and report her as missing. Of course, like in any investigation, as we all expect at this point, they really wanted to speak to Josh first, because a lot of the cases, sadly, it is the loved ones, it is the partners. But he cooperated with them fully. He explained that they'd gone out on the ride, that they'd met up, they parted ways about a half mile before she got home. So like she had a half mile to get to her house and he was going in the opposite direction or whatever to his house, which is why they decided to part ways. And of course, after that, he didn't hear from her. He rang her an hour later, and then obviously all this happened. So the police were out looking for her. They're really searching everywhere for her. And then later on that night, also find something strange in a cornfield. So he goes over to investigate. And he finds a bike just parked up in the cornfield, and it has blood on it. And it turns out that that bicycle was Sierra's bike. They found sunglasses and also a part from a motorbike as well, so that led them to believe that a motorbike had been in that area. Which, of course, you already know that Josh was on a motorbike, and everybody knows that. So they looked into him more, but I believe they actually managed to get some DNA from the scene or something like that, tested it against Josh's, and it did not match. So he was cleared as a suspect. Police were really reaching out for information. They were trying everything they could. They were putting out public appeals and stuff, and eventually somebody actually came forward, a farmer, who said that whilst driving along a road, he'd picked up a motorbike helmet which was just on the side of the road, and he chucked it into the back of his truck, not really thinking much of it. So because they were obviously looking for a person with regards to a motorbike, he brought that in, and they looked at the helmet and it actually had blood on it. They also got a bloody handprint from it too, I believe. And of course, they'd already ruled Josh out. You know, it wasn't actually his helmet. Nothing really matched with regards to Josh, but they believe that this helmet had actually been used as a weapon. And the days go by and the police found nothing. They didn't really have very much to go on. They were, like I said, they're outreaching everywhere to try and find information. But the thing with having DNA is, like, if you don't have that the person's DNA in your database, it's really hard to try and match it up. And so they decided to look at things like local offenders in the area and things like that. And this is when they actually got a break in the case. They came across a name of James Worley. Now, he was 57 years old. He had had previous convictions of kidnapping. And let me tell you something that's very coincidental. It's not, but you could think it was if it wasn't. He actually had the person that he'd tried to kidnap, he knocked her off her bicycle with his truck and then kidnapped her. That's how he did it. So, of course, there are some vast similarities there between Sierra and, you know, his victim. He then tried to drag her to his truck. I believe he used a screwdriver or something like that, like to threaten her with. Luckily, though, the woman did manage to escape, and she managed to flag down somebody who was driving by, and they stopped. And she's obviously telling him what's happened. She, I don't know if it was him or her, what's happened. And James, like, comes over and starts talking to them, saying, you know, she's a nutter. You don't know what she's talking about. I didn't try to do anything. Just trying to diffuse the situation and pretend that he didn't actually do it when he did. And then the police eventually came, and James was found. Guess what? He was found guilty of it, because he did try to do it. So there. He got 4 to 10 years for that, but he did only end up serving 3 of them. He had been in and out of prison. He was done for selling drugs. He was done for, like, the kidnap. I believe he had a weapon at some point, and, you know, stuff like that. So he was in and out. And they did find some ties to Sierra. He did go to the same high school as her, but they weren't in the same year. And, you know, I don't know whether they actually knew each other in high school or not. He lived close to the area that Sierra actually went missing. And then they also got this tip in to say that this white van had been driving really fast through the area, and a witness had actually taken down the license plate of that van. So when they looked into all of this, let me just tell you, can you guess who it actually tracked back to? Yeah, James. Surprise, surprise. So this gave the police, like, ample opportunity to get a warrant to search his, you know, house. And I believe he lived on, like, a farmhouse. And what they found there was pretty dark and creepy and horrible. They found that he had a hidden room, and inside he had women's underwear, one of which was covered in blood. Or maybe not covered in blood, but it had blood on it. They also discovered a freezer that had been buried and covered over with a wooden board. So I wouldn't like to think that he actually put people in there, because that is just so frightening and so creepy. It also was like a carpet in there or something along those lines, and that also had blood on it too. And it seemed like somebody had really tried to clean the area up. I mean, trust me, like, I don't know whether this guy just didn't think he would ever get caught, but he just left all the evidence there. His motorcycle was there. That was full of blood. He also had the van, like I said, which inside had zip ties. It had a ski mask, an inflatable mattress, it had duct tape, just like, you know, everything you could ever think of that a killer may need to kidnap somebody and just do horrific things to them. He had it all, just chilling there. And all these things that he had hidden all around his house, these secret rooms, these little nooks and crannies where he'd hidden things in his barn, it was just creepy, just really creepy. He'd set it all up perfectly, and it begs people to believe as to whether he had more than one victim, because, you know, everything was ready and waiting, and like, that doesn't happen overnight, you know? Normally, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but if somebody's done like their first kill, then they don't have all that stuff set up. Usually, if they want to do it again, then they might set it up so that they can do that again. So who knows how many victims he had. Now, basically, he had a court-ordered therapist, and when they went to speak to the therapist, he went on about how he had these fantasies about all these women, like abductions and things like that, and how he would go from that, and like the next one he would bury. So yeah, that's probably what the fridge was, which is creepy. He was arrested, they conducted more searches, and they eventually did find Sierra's body. It was southwest of where James lived, and she was found on Country Road 7 in Delta. She had been hogtied, which, honestly, every time I hear that word, it just puts an awful image in my brain that there's just nothing you can do in that situation, and it fully breaks my heart, so I hate it whenever I see it. But that was the case in Sierra's. She was hogtied. She also was found with like a plastic child's toy or something in her mouth, and that actual toy had slipped sort of down into her kind of mouth and throat, and it blocked her airway, and that's what actually killed her. She suffocated from it. She was also wearing an adult nappy, and they didn't find any evidence of sexual assault. So I don't know whether he had big plans to keep her there, put her in the box, put her on the mattress, tie her up, do all sorts of horrific things, which he never got to do, thankfully, I guess, in that sense. Well, I don't know. No, just, that's not, no. Which he seemingly never got to do, by the looks of it. I genuinely think that he tied her up and whatnot, put that down her mouth so that she couldn't shout or scream, and didn't actually realise that it had suffocated her, that it killed her. So that was his plan foiled straight away, because he couldn't do anything else with her. So it basically is believed that she was out on a bike, that he spotted her, he probably overtook her, pulled over to the side, and then jumped out on her, surprised her, smacked her over the head with his motorcycle helmet. He then probably hogtied her and hid her in the corn with the plastic in her mouth. What he then did was ring somebody, a friend or something, to say that his motorcycle had broke down, that he needed a lift home. And somebody came and collected him, took him back home. He then grabbed his van straight away, drove straight back out there, went and got Sierra. And, you know, I don't know whether at that point she was already dead, whether he'd gagged her then, or after he collected her again, he gagged her and then she died. But either way, she died from the gag that he put in her mouth. James pled not guilty. I don't know why. They had so much evidence against him. They knew that he did it. DNA, all the stuff in his house, everything. Literally everything. Everything. It was probably like a prosecutor's dream, all the stuff that they had on him. But yeah, he still tried it anyway. He was found guilty of a whole host of things. He got 24 years in prison, and at the moment he is still in prison. He got done for aggravated murder, abduction, felonious assault, gross abuse of a corpse, tampering with evidence, amongst other charges. And he was actually sentenced to death. And like I've already said, this is the part where we come to where people really do genuinely think that he had other victims, and I do too. Like, I mean, you don't have all that set up in your house just on a whim for your very first one. I'm sorry, but that's my opinion anyway. I don't think that. I think he definitely had other victims, which may never ever be known, which is very sad. I mean, he might not, you know, might not, but I just think he definitely did. My heart absolutely breaks for Sierra. She was so young, so full of life, had everything going for her, and just what happened, just awful. She wouldn't have stood a chance either. It's literally laying in wait for her. She's riding along on a bicycle and then smacks her in the head. She wouldn't have even seen it coming, which is just beyond. And then the hog tying, no. Sadly, she would have not stood a chance. And yeah, another young life just cruelly stolen away. Just because somebody decided that they wanted to, and it's just so frustrating and annoying. Like, you don't have the right to take away anybody's life, so just don't. But there you go, people are evil and vicious, and that's that. So yeah, that's the end of this case. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of Sierah Joughin. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.